Live from Los Angeles. Welcome to Good Morning LaLa, and I'm Dr. Erin.
Hi, I'm Rob Mack.
Happy Friday. I am Jez Moyer, co-host of America. Good morning at what?
Yes. Good morning, LaLa.
Hashtag thank God it's Friday. TGI.
You got the Friday feels.
I got Friday feels
That's
today.
what happens.
We are America's first live streaming daily talk show, Good Morning LaLa, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and now on Twitter.
Right, and so hashtag Friday Feels. It's all about dating, love, and relationships. Hence the red.
I like the red.
I'm not a big red person, but this is working for me today,
yes,
right?
It works.
So we've got a great show in store for you. We've got a few interviews with experts in the realm of love.
Yeah,
and
we've got
so
Andrea Owen, Stop Feeling Like Shit author. Love Andrea Owen, life coach.
And what she's all about is first loving yourself,
Yes.
right? So how to stop feeling like shit and love on yourself first. And then Andrea Surtash, one of my favorite dating and relationship experts, she has a really hot book called How to Cheat on Your Husband with Your Husband.
She's got such great titles.
That's a great
Such
title.
a great title. She also has Pregnant-ish. Once you've cheated on your husband with your husband and you get pregnant-ish, you can work with that. But she's really great. She had such incredible insight. What I love too is that they're just like, they're fun. It doesn't have to all be serious on Fridays or serious about love. Like, it should be fun. It should be full of energy. It should bring you to life.
Life is supposed to be fun.
Right?
Dating is supposed to be fun.
Don't you think it's cool that we're moving past like only traditional relationships or the way people had to have it be years ago? You know, it's so cool to watch everyone's expression. I know it's a lot of chaos also out there in the world, but I think it's super cool.
I'm all for fluidity. Yes. Like water, my friend. Yeah, it's one of my favorite Bruce Lee quotes. It says, be like water. You know, when we pour water into a teacup, it becomes a teacup. You pour water into, you know, a bucket, it becomes the bucket.
So are you like water in love, Rob?
Yeah, I'm pretty fluid. I'm pretty slippery, meaning that I'm hard to get a hold of.
Wow, we got a lot of no puns intended.
No puns intended, no puns intended. Yes.
Well, it is Friday. Yesterday there was an incredible event here in Los Angeles. It's actually Los Angeles' oldest culinary event. There was over 100 top chefs, restaurants, all under one roof at the Barker Hangar to celebrate Planned Parenthood. So it was food for a cause, y'all.
So cool. I went to their hangar, I don't know how many years, it's been 10 plus years ago. I believe they have the same hangar that I went to, the Barkers in Scottsdale, and it was really gorgeous. But what is so cool is that, you know, you go there and these are billionaires and they have beautiful hangars and huge jets, but they're all up to making a difference in the world, which is something I don't think that the media quite shows that with the glam life and all this stuff. That I think that it's a sign of our times that today people are, their values are shifting and people want to make a difference along with becoming billionaires. You know what I'm saying?
There's an expression I love, which is you don't prove you're rich by getting, you prove you're rich by giving.
Ooh,
and I love that.
Deep,
I love that.
deep.
That's your billionaire friends. You've got
There you
nothing
go.
but billionaire
No,
friends,
yeah,
apparently.
they just walked me, you know what I'm saying? No, it's fascinating. I do a lot of research. Of course, I'm a research junkie. And I think Los Angeles has the highest number of billionaires outside of New York. It's New York and then LA. Which,
Really?
you know, it's interesting because LA, you would consider that they wouldn't live here because taxes are very high in Los Angeles. But they have that much money. They've chosen to stay here, right?
They probably need to pay the taxes, or they're splitting their time. It's probably like, oh, they're wintering in California and then they summer in New York.
Yeah, or the business is located in Nevada.
Right?
Yeah.
Or offshore.
On sea, there's these like crazy new boats that you can actually buy your permanent residences on, so you live in international waters.
Right?
Wow.
Sign me
I
up.
don't know if I want that or not. It sounds kind of gangster, but it sounds a little nauseating.
Your water.
Yeah, right?
It's very fitting. You could just float around the world.
You're a little slippery. Can't get a handle on it.
That's
Just
true.
saying. I feel a little
What's wrong with
frisky.
these people?
It's Friday, okay? I get to feel a little frisky.
Love it.
I'm loving these weekends too. I don't know about you guys, but I literally have never experienced weekends. I've said that many times on the show, and I'm officially one of those people.
You're officially a weekend warrior.
I'm a totally a weekend warrior. Mine's not going out to get blitzed and have hangovers. Mine's like turn everything off, meditate, and like do nothing for a
Unplug
couple.
and
Yeah.
hide. Yeah, I know that feeling. That's often how I feel too. When the weekend hits, I'm like, yes, get to hide and sleep.
Yeah, they're kind of anticlimactic now because we do so many amazing fun things, you know, with the show and the guests and the events all week, and then it's Saturday's like nothing.
Yeah, it's true.
No,
Crickets.
What?
The challenge,
Crickets.
of course, is that in LA, there's so much to do though. So when the weekends hit, I want to do all these things, but the question is,
And then you just pass
And then
out
I
and
pass
don't
out at
answer
6
the phone,
p.m.
right?
and- yeah,
I know.
and-
I say yes to things, and then I'm like, gosh, I'm not my integrity. I'm so sorry. Like, it's not going to work out.
We're working on that. We're working on not overcommitting.
Oh, I'm not taking the memo on that. I am overcommitting. I am socializing with a purpose. As our executive producer says, I'm just going for it. I'm having a great time with this. It's been so fun. I'm so excited to celebrate Good Morning LaLa and the birthday of it, and gearing up to go to South by Southwest.
I'm so
gonna
excited.
be fun.
There you go, right?
Ricky Rebel.
It's
Yes.
on.
Yes, no, it's going to be a great time.
It's on. He's wonderful. Okay, you guys, so stay tuned. You guys, we're going to have 3 amazing, inspirational stories and get some tips and keys to having dating, love, and relationship. Whatever your expression is, we're all different, unique, so stay tuned.
Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to This Week in Focus. My name is Victoria Simone and I'm a producer here at Focus TV Network, which is America's first video streaming talk show network, but you already knew that. And today I have my girl helping me out.
I'm Jasmine Ye, co-host of Good Morning LaLa Land.
So last week on the Focus TV Network, we had the season premiere of the LA Home Show hosted by
Natasha Phillips.
We had Live It with Tanya Memme
and Robert Ferguson.
We also had #Harry and Kelly and What's Good, hosted by Amy Paprath and Justin Walter. Jez, who was on your show.
It was a great week in LaLa, and we had some serious talk with the creator of the Girl Talk Network herself,
Sarah Pendrick.
some real insight with our favorite psychic and the creator of the Soul Playground, Michelle Miche, and the gorgeous ladies of Leonie Candelli.
Hot. Thanks for tuning in to This Week in Focus. My name is Victoria Simone. Jez, thanks for helping me out. Bye.
I'm Jasmine Ye, co-host of Good Morning LaLa Land, and in case you missed us live, this was This Week in LaLa Land. I've got my associate producer, Victoria Simone, to help me walk through. On Monday, we had licensed marriage and family counselor, Ms. Elizabeth Winkler,
Who specializes in mindfulness and meditation.
We celebrated #Transformation Tuesday with Derek Warburton.
You mean Derek Fabulous?
Fabulous.
Fabulous.
On Wednesday, we had the creators of Leonie Candelli.
Hot.
Hot. Thursday, we had a lot of girl talk with the creator herself.
You mean Girl Crush? Sarah Pendrick.
And Kara King Casey, the sisters of the Daily Soul Sessions. And on Friday, we celebrated with Michelle Miche, creator of the Soul Playground.
And Psychic.
This was This Week in LaLa Land.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Creators of Leonie Candelli.
Hot.
How did that happen?
Fuck.
Not cute. Chin. No! Put down the paper towel. Leonie Candelli.
Making sure our bedrooms smell amazing. If you could get me out of bed before 10, then you're special. You don't want. What?
Robert Ferguson, I bet.
And the amazing
Amy. I'm fired. From Los Angeles, welcome back to Good Morning LaLa, and we're so excited we have Ms. Andrea Owen, amazing life coach and incredible author in studio today. Thanks for being here, babe.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And my friend.
Yay! Actual in real life friend.
A real life friend, I know, not just social media friend.
How did you two meet?
Friend of a friend. I was co-hosting a conference and he came in Huntington Beach.
Yep. What's up, Kira?
So many powerful
Right?
women,
That's
Rob.
yeah.
I don't know anything but that. I will say this, and I mean this with all sincerity. All of the women in my life are powerful and successful. And it may not be in ways that are traditionally accepted, but they're successful, absolutely.
Keep
Andrew's
speaking that
epitome of
love
that.
language, Rob.
Yeah.
Affirmation.
That's just true.
And it's the titles of your book, the title of your website, everything, they're genius.
Thank you.
Did you come up with all of them?
I
or-
did. You know what's funny is way back in 2009, my very first website was called Live Your Ideal Life, which is so very life coachy and, you know, very cliche. And I'm like, it just doesn't feel right. And a couple of my friends were like, it doesn't match your personality. So that's how Your Kick-Ass Life was born. And then the titles of the books have followed suit.
What inspired you to become a coach and become an author?
It's a funny, not funny story. So I found out about life coaching back into around 2002 when it was very much in its infancy. And I thought about being a therapist, but wasn't sure if it was for me. And then I remember telling my then husband, I think that this profession's really neat, but I think you would need to have a lot of life experience in order to be a really great coach. So 2 years later, as we were, I know, cue the universe going, okay.
That's what you pray for.
So 2 years later, as he and I were discussing trying to conceive our first child, we'd been married for a couple of years. We'd been together for 13 years at that point. He had an affair with our neighbor and got her pregnant. So we divorced, and it was very dramatic and traumatic for me. I was very close to his family. It was rough on everyone. And then I did probably the most unhealthy thing any person can do right out of that kind of a divorce is I started dating. Got myself a Match.com profile, and I was like, I know how to distract myself from this utter grief and pain I'm in. So I met a couple of really great guys and didn't want anything to do with them.
Naturally.
Right?
Naturally.
Of course. Was not in that place. And I met a guy whom I thought was really great, and he unfortunately had cancer. We dated, and it was a hard relationship. It was lots of up and downs. He was sick, and then he wasn't sick, and he was getting better, and then he was very, very ill. And then it turns out, about 9 months into that relationship, that I found out that he had fabricated the entire story about having cancer and actually had an opioid addiction. And I'm from San Diego, so if anyone is, from there or knows, you can, Tijuana is a hop, skip, and a jump where you can pretty much get any medication that you want. And I thought we were going down there to get his cancer medication, but we were not.
Major plot twist.
So, oh my gosh, the whole thing, if I was going to sit, every time I tell the whole sordid tale, people are like, did that actually happen to you? And I was in such a vulnerable place. I got conned, really, is what happened. Thousands of dollars gone. I had moved out of my apartment and quit my job because he and I were going to move away together. I was also pregnant. And he actually went away to rehab because, he wanted to make it work. And then while he was in rehab, he met someone there and fell in love with her and broke up with me. Yeah. So that was like my rock bottom, on the floor, crying. My apartment was empty. I didn't have my job anymore. I'm like, what am I going to do? And I was 31 at the time. It wasn't like I was some 16-year-old girl who really didn't know any better. Like, I knew how birth control worked. Like, I knew. So it was the first time I really got up and looked in the mirror and thought, maybe it's me. And of course, the men in my life had done some pretty crappy things, but I had never taken responsibility for my life. I had never known how to take care of myself emotionally. I put all of my happiness in other people's hands. Like, if you are good to me, then I am happy. If, then I can fix us. So it ended up not working out. So that's really when I started my life over and signed up for training. And 11 years later, here I am.
Wow. So then you're like, I have a book or 30 in me.
Exactly. I think I do have 30. At least a Lifetime movie script, right?
No question about that. Probably multiple.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I can completely relate. I went to through a very similar thing. And I always say it's like the biggest blessing of your life when someone comes through that just has the universe has a brilliant way, or we have a brilliant way of pulling in exactly what we need to have self-love. So what does that look like for you now? What type of clients are you working with, and how do you base the love base when a lot of times people come they want money, they want fame, they want whatever it is, but that it all comes down to one thing, the love. So how do you deal with that as a coach?
That's interesting because the women that come to me into my practice, they know that those things aren't the answer anymore because they've tried that. They have kicked ass in their career. They have done all of these things outside of themselves to try to get the fulfillment that they're looking for, and it's just not working anymore. And then they are really struggling in areas like perfectionism and people pleasing and all the things I write about in my second book. And I kind of, the metaphor I like to use is they have tied a knot at the end of their rope, they're holding on, and their palms are sweating. They're done. And they're like, what is it now that I need to do? Their personal relationships are suffering. But again, everything looks great on the outside. So it is about, they are ready to take responsibility for their life. And what we really work on is things like their core belief systems. At the end of the day, what do you really believe to be true about yourself? Write it down. And sometimes that's painful for people. It's these negative core beliefs that we all carry from childhood or from past relationships or whatever it is. Getting to the bottom of that, and that's one place that we start.
And what are some of these silent habits that these women have?
The most common ones, to pick one or two, and a lot of them overlap. So the ones I see the most are numbing out, whether that's with booze or shopping or work is a big one. The internet can be one too. Isolating and hiding out is another one. Perfectionism, overachieving. I get a lot of overachievers. And the thing is, you guys, is like these things work for a while. These things get us to where you know, successful careers, et cetera, et cetera.
And validation.
Totally. I mean, we all want that. We all need that as humans. But they just cross the line over into they're affecting their life negatively. So that's where we start to work on it and kind of pull back and figure out what are the behaviors that are actually going to be in alignment with the person that you want to be.
It's a great recognition that what you do because it worked at some point in time,
Right.
and it no longer does, no longer serves you. So how do you do that? How do you take somebody who comes to that place, that recognition, like, okay, I see this unhealthy habit I have, but I want to create healthy habits now. How do you turn that around for them or help them turn it around for themselves?
One of the ways that we do that is we work on their value system. And so values is one of those things where people are like, values, like, didn't I do that in some corporate training in 1999?
Kill
so
me
boring
now.
and unsexy, right? But it's so foundational. Like, how many people actually know what is important to you about the way that you live your life? And I don't really care for you to just name it, because I say values work without actually looking at the nitty gritty is like naming your child and calling that parenting. It's not. Like, I want to know when stuff really hits the fan in your life, what are you going to do? What decisions are you going to make? If you're sexually harassed at work and it's easier for you to not say anything at all, does that in alignment with your values? So it's really about looking at past experiences and hypothetical situations where what does courage actually look like? What does honesty and integrity actually look like instead of just naming it?
So what if you are that woman, though, who is out of line, who recognizes, you know what, my reactions aren't in line with what my values are, but I can't get there?
Right? Because it's like subconscious work. Because
Yeah.
as a doctor of divinity, you can analyze it, you can think about it, you go, oh, I want these values, but until you get into the core. So how do you do that?
I think, were you going to answer?
No, I was going to I'm like, the answer is call Andrea.
Well, I think the biggest part of it, because I'm not a fan of, I don't think you can go from A to Z. You know, we've been working this way for decades. You know, it's like, if you take the example of negative self-talk, how do you just change your self-talk? It's not just like I make a choice and I change it. So what I think the first step is really just recognizing when you're in it. And trying to have self-compassion when you realize that you're doing it. Because what tends to happen is you realize that you're out of alignment, or maybe that you're having negative self-talk, and then you beat yourself up for that. And that feels crappy, like, let's be honest. So I work with people, we do something like, we have mantras. So if you realize that you're doing something that doesn't feel good, I always say to myself, like, well, that just happened. If you fall down, let's say, the rabbit hole of compare and despair, like, who doesn't do that on social media, right? Like, I want a life like Kevin and Kellyanna. Like, oh, my life isn't like theirs. My life is horrible. So I would stop myself and say, okay, that just happened. That just happened. And then that way you can, start small. It's like learning a new language or learning a new dance. The people on, So You Think You Can Dance, they didn't just pick that up like that. It's a learning thing that we do. And, changing those neural pathways of the brain to think better thoughts and have better behaviors.
Wow. So much of what I love about you, Andrea, is that your work is based both in experience and it's based obviously in deep education, self-education. Were there particular authors or teachers or people in your life that have inspired you to get to the place where you are now?
Great question.
One of the very first self-help books that I ever read was by the late Kenneth Carlson, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And
he was gangster. He was one of the OGs.
I know, he was OG.
Like low-key.
Completely.
Like, yeah.
And I love that. Wayne Dyer and even like Louise Hay, that was a little bit too deep for me in my 20s. I wasn't ready. I liked that in theory, I liked the idea of that.
I need to keep it very conversational at this point.
So I loved that book, and there's a whole series of the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff.
Right.
But definitely, fast forward, Brene Brown's been a huge mentor of mine. I'm certified in her work. I actually got to go and be certified by her and her senior faculty. It was incredible. And yeah, like the OGs, definitely Wayne Dyer and Louise Hay, the originals, and I'm trying to think. There's so many. You should see my bookshelf at home.
Endless. Yeah.
It's interesting when we have guests on. There's something about that. You just have this great energy. You feel really grounded and it feels so authentic. So I just want to say thank you so much for all your work, everything that you're up to. I love the titles. I love everything you're up to. And just, I think it's profound everything you've been through and how you transform that into your gift and calling. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
How can people find you?
I'm at Your Kick-Ass Life online on the web, and I hang out a lot on Instagram and Facebook as well.
And there's also a book club for people who buy your book.
Yes,
Tell us about that.
So that starts on January 22nd, and if you have it on audiobook or e-reader or paperback, I'm guiding people starting on January 22nd through a 4-week book study, because raise your hand if you've bought a self-help book and never read it. or you buy it and just read it and you're like, that sounds nice.
Yeah, or you
For
carry
someone
around
else.
just so everybody else thinks that you read it.
I didn't want that's
so
happened in this episode.
Well, we have to take a break, but we'd like to have you come back on the final segment with everybody after this next interview, if you would, okay?
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to.
Okay, great. Stay tuned, you guys. We will be right back.
Today on the LA Home Show, we speak with Billy Rose, founder of the agency, as to how the agency is so different from all the other brokerage.
To me, it seemed anachronistic to encourage agents to now go be their own thing, and they're no longer sharing their resources with the rest in their group so that they can have competitive advantage. It's always a team is going to beat an individual.
We also speak with Marissa Zanuck, who started the Zanuck Group, and she discusses how it is to be an agent in the LA market today.
So many people that think that you can just make quick money in real estate, and it's really not like that. You need to put your time in. You need to do, you know, the dirty work. You need to learn all aspects of the business.
And my 3 favorite finds in the LA market today. And that's all starting now on the LA Home Show on Focus TV.
I am your host and producer, Alex Worley, filming inside Focus TV's West Hollywood studio. Welcome to Empowerista, a show dedicated to highlighting female trailblazers and empowering you to turn your barriers into breakthroughs.
Hey guys, I'm Amy Papra.
And I'm Justin Walter.
And this is What's Good, the show that's dedicated to positive, uplifting stories from all over the globe.
Welcome to Good Morning LaLa Land. I'm Dr. Erin.
I'm Rob Mack.
And I'm Jessa Moye.
And we're making history as the first live streaming daily talk show.
This is where all kinds of shit happens.
Monday through Friday, we are going to be streaming to you live, Los Angeles, at 9 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Alyssa Goodman Show. So Kelly, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Alyssa. This is so fun.
I know.
What's up, Rose girls? I'm Jessica Carroll. Today we're gonna have so much fun because we have fitness personality Katie Austin.
Hey,
we're
thanks for having me on.
Cheers.
Katie
Austin.
I love it. It
Cheers.
feels like a Saturday.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Millennial Life. I'm your host, Laura Odegaard, and today we are joined by the very beautiful former Miss California and now a TV host, Natasha Martinez. I'm so happy that you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
You are tuning in to Slay with Rachel McCourt, and I have a fabulous guest. In studio with me is Liza Glukoff. She's just been named executive producer of programming at Awesomeness TV. I mean, no big deal, but huge. Hi.
Thank you.
Hi.
Are we so excited right now?
We are so excited.
I mean, we have roses, we have perfect lighting, we've got some Spa Girl vodka in case we get a little crazy.
Hey, Dr. Erin here, teaching universal law and spiritual truth, having a conscious conversation in the heart of Hollywood. And I'm honored to have the guest today, who is Christina Pascucci, who is amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's an honor to be here with you. I so appreciate it.
Today on Moms Matter, we're going to talk about money, 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 something that we all struggle with and we need help with, and that's why we have the fabulous Winnie Sun, who's here with us today.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you so much. I know you've been on MSNBC and Forbes, and you are the money expert.
Hey everyone, welcome back to a new magical episode of Soul Reboot. I am your host, Allison Charles. Please welcome and meet this powerful divine queen whose name is Daphne Wayans. I am so happy to be here with you.
I'm so honored to be here.
Live from Los Angeles. Welcome back to Good Morning LaLa Land. I'm so excited and honored to have two beautiful women and hosts of Sexual Disorientation, Dr. Rotney and Sylvia Sage. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Guys,
gorgeous
so much coming.
goddesses.
Yeah,
Look at
absolutely.
you guys.
Yeah, so you talk all things dating, relationships, sex, the taboo things in between.
Yes.
How did this podcast start?
Dr. Romney started the podcast, and I was blessed enough to be asked to come along as a co-host. So.
Yeah. I mean, we started it someone I had worked with for years in the industry, Frank Prather, had said, "Hey, I'm getting into the podcast business. Just talk about relationships, talk about sex." And so we sort of tried different iterations. The podcast world's it's an interesting one. Everyone loves them, but it's about hitting the right tone. And we kept trying different co-hosts, did it alone. And then Sylvia came on one day. And she brought this completely different perspective than me, but it was also convergent. And it's actually really hard. You guys know this, to find a co-host where it works.
Right.
And so you have the interesting pairing of a doctor, professor, and an adult film star, comedian.
Right.
And it was actually perfect, because honestly, if ever there was a yin-yang, I think we got it.
It's us. And I have so much respect for this woman, so it flawlessly just seems together.
Wow. So that's it.
What inspired Sexual Disorientation podcast? What was it?
Rob, you and I have talked about this. When you talk about sex in the United States of America, we either laugh about it or we're terrified of it. And clinically, I approach it as, you can either talk about it as tab A is going into slot B, and I do a lot of it from a public health perspective, as you know. But it's such an unhealthy space. And it doesn't need to be. Yesterday I assigned something to my students, and I said, listen, I want you to work on health, behavior, or wellness for the semester. And that can be anything. And one of the things I said to them, I said, if you're in a relationship, I don't want you to go and find someone to do this, but have more sex, because it's a really healthy part of your life. And I'm not saying to go to extremes or anything, just have sex more often, have touch. And so we don't normalize it, and we want it, but it's become a dark space. When you think of what's been going on with the Harvey Weinstein story and all of that, it's become this really confused space. And we do a lot of debunking around that, but there's confusion.
It is, and I did some research, because thinking about porn addiction and how it affects everything. And looking at one study, it found that basically porn-free relationships are stronger with low rate of infidelity. Number 2, they found that watching porn diminishes relationship commitment. And number 3, the fantasy alternative leads to real-world cheating. And I try and take a very neutral place. Right. We're all about consciousness and knowing free will and everyone's expression. But these are scientists, these are psychologists, these are people coming up with this. So what do you think about that?
I think honestly, sex and people watching porn and having sex together, it forces conversation, and that's huge in relationships in general, let alone the sexual side of that. But it forces people to, what is your, fantasy or fetish, or what is yours, and you have to have those open conversations and then hopefully find a happy medium in doing that.
But I think that's exceptionally difficult as a woman, especially right now with the whole Harvey Weinstein thing and things that are happening, owning our sexuality, owning our femininity, and being okay with that. It's hard, because with the Harvey Weinstein thing, there is so much good coming out of the Me Too's, but then it also takes sexuality and feminism back a step, and a little, I don't want to encroach on that too much, but it does make it to where it becomes harder to be a sexual woman in this industry. I know that personally, because I get a lot of flack for carrying myself so heavily in the sexual arena. But I think it just means that we have to continue having more conversations and speaking out.
I agree. The conversation is the most important thing, for sure.
But I also want to say that when we look at this research, I'm also going to put on my scientist scholar hat. Here's where it gets tricky. Because the people who are drawn to watch porn may already temperamentally and dispositionally be oriented to infidelity.
For sure.
Does that make sense? So the tempting explanation is porn causes infidelity. It may very well be that the person who has that propensity is the one who's tuning in to porn.
Thank you very
much. And so I think that what we have to do is say it's a chicken egg issue. So let's say tomorrow we eliminated all porn from the world. would those people still find a way to be unfaithful in their relationships?
Yes.
Yep.
Well, that goes along with spiritual principle, because whatever's decided in mind is what, you know, gets projected out. So we can't blame it on the alcohol or drugs or the porn or whatever it is. Just like you said, I couldn't agree more.
So that's
Great
where
point.
we have to sort of, it's the, you know, I think a lot of people are looking for, like, well, there's got to be an explanation. And it's, I mean, it's a difficult conversation. Sylvia and I tackle this in the podcast a lot. And this is where we have that mutual respect, where I say, listen, from a feminist perspective, I've said it over and over again. I struggle. I struggle with it because it is this sense of women are sexual objects and it fetishizes sex in a way. A lot of women will say, my partner watches porn. I don't look like that woman. I'm never going to look like that woman. And I couldn't get into that position if I did Pilates for 10 years.
I think that watching
that. So, and then men too, they feel like they don't measure up, no pun intended. They're like, what is that? Because that ain't what's happening for me.
So I have a question for you guys, because I truly believe that intimacy is so important, and I believe that whether you are into, you know, whatever style of intimacy you're into, that it is a place, such a beautiful place to expand a relationship. Where do you think, and how do you think people can take more time and develop this in a healthy sense and get into, like, you know, Tantra sex? Sometimes people, like, we've all heard of Sting and his wife, you know, doing 6 hours of sex and stuff like that. How can people take more time? Are there any things that you guys recommend for people to get more into their intimacy?
Well, we kind of spoke about this on our last episode, and it was being more adventurous in your sex life, you know, taking a few more risks, if you will. Maybe not so much like publicly around your children, but, you know, publicly in your hotel or, you know, something like that on a little getaway for the two of you.
I did this with a few clients actually around the holidays, which is, you know, when people tend to have less sex, believe it or not. And I have them write down their fantasies on slips of paper and toss it all in like a bag or a bowl and pick them out. And then do them.
But does it have to be fantasy?
No.
Can it be meditation and sex at the same time?
But
Or
that
can
could be
it
the fantasy then.
You know, someone is very religious. Maybe it's, you know, having prayer and sex. I don't know what that looks like. Like, I think that people don't think. They think the only way to get, you know, more intimate or more kinky or whatever it may be only has to do around becoming kinky.
But I'd say careful.
Becoming more intimacy.
Fantasy's not just kinky. Fantasy could just be that. Could we have sex for 6 hours? Could we have sex where we just touch each other for an hour and nothing's going inside of anything else? You know, so it's that I think that we have to be careful. As fantasy always feels like you're swinging from this chandelier. That's not always what it is.
It's such a profound conversation on so many levels, and you know, I've had long conversations about all of this. And one of the things that I was most interested in that you shared with me that blew me away, among other countless things, was the importance of physical touch, even for babies. Can you talk a little bit about that, Romney? Because I think that's one thing, particularly in today's society, that's become, in some ways, it's confusing for people. You know, so can you talk to me about?
People aren't being touched enough. Most of our interaction is taking place through a 6-inch screen anymore. We're not touching each other enough. We don't touch our children enough. We don't touch our friends enough. We don't touch our partners enough. It requires being in the same room. And so I think that we almost think like sex is a get in, get out. And so how, you know, I agree. We know that touch impacts the central nervous system. There are great studies done on infant massage that show that it relates to something called dendritic arborization, but literally the brain starts proliferating more and more connections. And to some degree that matters in adulthood because human touch matters. We are a physical species. We have more nerve endings on these fingertips than and our lips. Those are where all the nerve endings are. So touch matters. And we have more single people than we've ever had before.
Especially LA.
And so what does that mean? Because a lot of people think single means no touch. You know, and so people may pay for a massage, and I think that's part of why people do that, because they want desperately to be touched. They want to go get their hair shampooed so someone touches them. We're not touching each other enough. Now, I'm not saying
So you're saying that the blowout bars are really about intimacy?
I'm sorry?
The blowout bars are really about intimacy.
Anywhere somebody touches you, I think that's why those honestly, if that's why anywhere and Reiki, all of those things, they're all about touch. Those are ancient practices. Many of those practices are based in touch. And now we're wonky about touch. Like as a psychologist in my practice, I can't be touching everyone. You know, it's considered deeply inappropriate.
Interesting. Fascinating.
It's so fascinating. I mean, and do you see, in what ways is this current sort of the challenges and opportunities we see around the sexual harassment stuff and the Time's Up campaign, how do we you know, in what ways do you feel like what's happening around sexual harassment is informing this discussion around touch, around interacting with people, around genuinely connecting with people, but in a way that is mutually respectful?
You know what I'm going to say, Rob? Don't confuse touch and power.
Right.
Because harassment, that's about power. That has nothing to do with intimacy. Because the word sexual is in there, we're assuming an intimacy? Absolutely nothing. Harassment's harassment. Harassment's oppression. Harassment is power. And so touch and power never belong in the same sentence. Touch is really about keeping it equal. It's about two people. Intimacy is about equality. It's never about one being over the other. And I think that's the struggle. And all the stuff we've talked about in terms of entitlement and narcissism and all of that, we confuse that.
I have a question regarding touch because, you know, I've seen in several of my friends' relationships, they get to a point where they don't physically touch each other anymore. They don't have that intimacy. They can still go have sex, but there's not the foreplay, there's no touching, there's no cuddling.
Right.
How do people navigate that?
I think at that point, it's almost lost, and that's where you have to come back together on that. But it's probably better that she explained that. Because me, I'm the person I would say, like, at that point, it's probably lost and go your separate ways. But
I don't think
she's more of a stick around.
It's go, go, go. It's do. It's get things done. Everyone's in a rush. Touch takes time. It means mindful awareness that there's someone around you, and you gently you're aware of, like, I'm just going to put my hands on this person. I'm going to, you know, appropriately. And again, when you're talking about harassment, a lot of that's boundaries. So to your point, in relationships and everything, that takes a moment. Let me touch my partner, appropriately so, but I think that because partners are so quick to respond to each other by text and phone and FaceTime, I truly believe that that's getting lost in translation.
And stepping outside of your own wants and needs and seeing somebody else's, that's huge as well, because we get very self-involved and we get so wrapped up in our own lives and our own work schedule that we forget that they might be hurting without them even saying it to us. You know,
where in LA? All the narcissists,
right?
Right. So we're running out of time because we want to bring all these segments in. But where can everyone find you? Where can they find your podcast? Where can they find your work?
Well, you can find me online. You can find me at Twitter at SylviaSageXXX. You can find me on Instagram, SylviaSageSex. I also run a different podcast called Sexy Funny Raw on YouTube, and then you can find us on Sexual Disorientation.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And I can be found on Twitter at Dr. Ramani, D-O-C-T-O-R, Ramani, R-A-M-A-N-I, no XXX.
Yes.
And then Sexual Disorientation is available on iTunes.
Yes.
You can get it there. And you can also check out my book, Should I Stay or Should I Go?
Great book.
Surviving a Relationship with a Narcissist. It is the essential survival manual for the 21st century, especially in LA.
Couldn't agree more.
Book.
It's a must-read book.
Must-listen podcast, and I mean that. I mean, those are two sort of resources that I've used consistently.
Right. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with an extraordinary badass woman. So good morning, La La Land. I'm Dr. Erin.
I'm Rob Mack.
And I'm Jasmine Moye. Monday through Friday, we are going to be streaming to you live, Los Angeles.
America's first live streaming daily talk show.
At 9 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
And we have a sexy show for you today.
We have got Will, Leanne, and Gabe in the house. Let's go back there. Hi!
Talked to 4 beautiful, intelligent, conscious women. Clearly, I was miserable the entire time.
She has a TV show similar to your guys.
Ellen.
Yes!
Yes!
The little peck, come on.
I feel so bad for Jess.
We're live, do it for the people viewing.
For the people.
Wow!
M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E Club Mickey Mouse.
We definitely were not prepared today, and it was
Hang on, but the other half completely.
Friday on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Happy holidays.
It's gonna be a
Good morning, La La Land.
5, 6, 7, 8. We are the Mouseketeers, and we probably wear our ears. We mousing, we mousing, M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E, Club Mickey Mouse. Good morning, La La Land.
Welcome back. Good morning, La La Land. We are so excited to talk about love, sex, relationships, and dating, all the above. We have Andrea Sertash here today. How are you?
I'm great.
I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, I did so much research on you. You are the bomb. You are all over the place, and you've got, I love the titles of your book. Can I just please read out the titles real quick, okay? Because they are great titles. So, He's Just Not Your Type, and that's a good thing. Next book, Cheat on Your Husband with Your Husband. I love that. We're going to hear about that. And she's a co-author of It's Okay to Sleep with Him on the First Date. Yeah, I want to hear all about it.
Well, the second part of the title is And Every Other Rule Debunked. So it's about debunking dating rules that are outdated.
This is our girl. We finally
We have these conversations all the time.
You do,
So we are happy to have you on the show.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. And it's never boring to talk about love and relationships, right? So
Ever.
there's a lot to talk
So
about.
I want to know, how did you become the expert?
I accidentally became the expert. I was on the radio after one of my books. This was a long time ago. In 2005, I worked on a book called How to Survive Dating. And I was one of many journalists interviewing people across the country. And I was stuck on the radio because the publisher said, "You're more extroverted, let's put you on air." And the announcer on the radio station said, "We're so lucky to be joined by a dating expert." And I thought, that's so cool, there's a dating expert here.
Who's that?
Yeah, who is that? And then
No pressure.
I waited, and Andrea Sertash. So I was answering love and dating questions live on air for an hour. This was 2005. At this point, I've interviewed thousands of people and written books, and now I really feel like I'm credible, not clinical. I don't pretend to be a therapist, but I'm a journalist. So
I love that. Research
advice.
I'm a total geek at heart, so I completely relate. That's amazing. So I wanted to dive into in love versus being in love, because you have a scene like where you do multiple things, where you're on purple couches on OWN, and then you have all these things. And one of the great conversations you had was being in love versus,
falling in love and being in love.
There you go. Okay, yeah.
You're right.
So different.
It is different.
So different.
Well,
we want both.
You guys know, everybody knows it's different, but it's actually chemically different in your brain as well. So in the first kind of stage of love, we're high on all these wonderful love cocktails in our brain.
That's
like
my drug of
dopamine.
choice.
Oh, we are all addicted to that. And we're actually wired to be addicted to that high that we get when we first meet someone and click, because nature wants us to get together. But after about, on average, 1 to 3 years, everything subsides. You start noticing a morning breath. And that's why I wrote Cheat on Your Husband with Your Husband, because being in love and falling in love are different. And the good news is being in love is just as exciting and fulfilling, and actually oftentimes more fulfilling, but we have to keep up the play to make it exciting sometimes.
It's so interesting, because I have so many friends, and I've found myself in previous relationships chasing that high.
Yes.
You know, and so what do you say to those folks that are chasing that high? You know, what is the sort of difference in terms of, you know, finding that fulfilling second stage?
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, we all do it. And I often say, I think it's okay sometimes when you're married to have a crush. It's a controversial article I wrote a few years ago. People said, why is she saying that? But we're human. We're going to crush on people. We're going to chase that high of new love. Just to know everybody experiences this attachment phase where it changes. But there are ways to kind of trick your brain into having those feelings again. One of the quickest ways is introducing novelty on a regular basis.
What do you mean by that?
So think about when you travel with your partner. Things are exciting. You have more of a romantic vibe because you're out of your usual routine and you're out of your general, you know, everything you do all the time. It's different. And when you do new things with your partner, your brain actually activates some of those feelings again. So your brain thinks maybe the love is new, not just that you're in a new place. It's the quickest way.
So you're saying travel is good for the juju.
Good for the juju, but even if it's literally not going to your neighborhood restaurant, just getting outside your area on date night, that even helps. Just trying new things together is a great way.
It's so hard because in long-term relationships that I've been in, once you get into that comfort zone, you do comfortable things together, go to the same place, you have your routines, and it's hard to even decide to choose something novel sometimes when you're that stuck in it.
And it's comforting to do the routine, and I'm all about, listen, I live in New York where it's winter now, and I don't feel like getting off the couch with my husband. But we make an effort,
choose to be
and
comfortable.
that's fine sometimes. But when we want to feel that spark again, that excitement, you know, I do challenge us to do something a little bit different and new, and it really helps.
So I have a real question for you, Andrea. So if somebody is in LA and they want to find a mate, they want to find somebody to potentially marry, should they go for somebody that they have that I'm falling in love with, or should they? Because I always think it needs to have a higher purpose, whether it be, you know, making a difference in the world, maybe it's to have children, whatever that higher purpose is for that. Because I truly believe that that fantasy, that romanticism, it does go away sometimes. And so what do you think people should look for?
You know, it's so hard because falling in love is such a beautiful thing, and but I often say during the first few months of dating, everyone's lying. They just don't know they are.
Thank you. I mean, honestly, thank you for saying that. I mean, really.
You know, you really have to be aware with your eyes open without planning the rest of your life within the first 5 minutes, because someone fits into the picture of what you have in your head. The reason I wrote "He's just not your type," and that's a good thing. And by the way, my husband, big spoiler alert, wasn't my type at all. This was 11 years ago.
Oh, wow.
He was my friend, the last person I thought I'd marry. But I had so much fun with him. And the last line of that book is, date someone you would want to be with if nobody else was looking.
Wow.
Because so often we make decisions in love based on shoulds, what other people would think, what we feel we should do, not really listening to our gut, our heart. So that's really what the book's about, changing patterns and listening to the deeper.
So we should all date our best friends, marry our best friends. Is that what
you're saying? Not necessarily.
Wrong. I'm going over there.
Not necessarily. But you know, I have a checklist. That's so funny. I have a checklist. I did this article for Oprah.com a few years ago called the Must-Have Can't Stand list, and that's the easiest checklist to do. I think, to kind of boil down to what are your true values and how are you going to find that in a partner? Because once you know really what you're looking for in terms of shared values, then all the other superficial stuff.
But do you think that being best friends is more important, or to have the same values?
You need, okay, so one of the exercises I have is called the 4 essential ingredients that your partner, and I will tell you what that is.
Right now. She's got some good juice.
4 essentials.
The 4 essentials. So is the person you're with a good lover, partner, companion, and friend? And you have to check off all 4
Wow,
boxes.
that's a good one.
So it's not enough if someone's a good friend if you don't have a sexual spark.
Yeah,
Let me ask you this though, do they have to maintain the 4 essentials at all times? Because I feel like in relationships there's a sense and a flow, and sometimes
it's 3
personal
out of 4.
Sometimes it's 3 out of 4, and then it's like it shifts. Maybe it's the friendship isn't as weighted as it is the lover or the partner.
Yeah, I mean, there are going to be times where your partner can't show up as your companion for every event, or isn't, you're not having a sexy month. That's fine, but over time you should feel that the person you're with checks those boxes. Because I've heard so many people say, I can't leave this person, I'm in a terrible relationship, but I love him. And I'll ask a simple question: do you like him? Do you like yourself with him?
Ooh, those are some real questions.
Oh my God.
And these are the important questions.
And I love this concept, I love this idea. Do you think that it's also necessary or even preferred that your partner does the same thing, should they also fill out the checklist? Because what if, you know, you meet all of their criteria but they don't meet yours, or vice versa? How does that work?
Well, you need to also show up as a good lover, partner, companion, and friend. But one thing, a big misconception is that you and your partner need to be carbon copies, and that's a really boring relationship. So,
like your husband wasn't your type.
No, and the happiest couples, now I've interviewed so many. I mean, on the Oprah Winfrey show, I hosted a show for OWN a few years ago. I interviewed hundreds of people and asked them kind of the secret sauce for marriage. And people said, for the most part, we have an active life together and a dynamic life apart.
Interesting.
So there was that balance. It wasn't just everything together all the time.
So we talked about, we had a conversation the other day, and Jessalyn was saying, we're talking about first dates and having the conversation and how deep you should get in the questions like that. So I'm wondering, and Jessalyn was like, I don't think we should go that deep on the first date. No. So I'm asking, like, if you're talking about making sure you have values in, like, how would that look? Like, when do you start bringing those up, in your opinion? When would you start bringing up those topics to make sure, like, I'm not wasting their time, I'm not wasting my time?
Well, the biggest advice I have is to listen to the gut. Because a lot of times when people, even in early dates, there are subtle cues, you know, as we always hear how he or she treats a waitress, or so there are subtle cues even early on without having to ask squarely in someone's face, do you want kids in the next 4 years? Because on a first date's a first meeting, you want to keep it kind of light.
He's like, and I don't want to like make any like harsh judgments. There is something to be said about intuition, but it's like I don't want to judge too harshly or make assumptions. And that's kind of hard to differentiate between what my intuition is saying about a person and what I'm assuming about them.
It's such a great question. So yeah, how do you do that? How do you get out of your own way and hear your intuition more deeply?
I think you should be what I call your vacation self on a date. So think about what you're like on vacation. You're generally you can
I'm gonna always be vacation self. Every day is vacation self.
Whenever I say this to a single person, they get it right away. And I even say it to couples: be your vacation self on date night, because on vacation you're present. You're not overanalyzing. You're not in here. You know, there's an old joke that people are looking on the menu on a first date. Can I really marry this person? Like you're thinking chicken or fish, but you're really you're like a million steps ahead. On vacation, you're in the moment.
You're like, shut up! I don't know.
Well, depends which vacation you're on.
I really don't drink that much, but my old self.
Spring break. No, but basically you want to just get on vacation. You're not over analyzing, and you take risks, and you're out of your comfort zone, and that's the energy you want to have on an early date.
Love that. You know what I want to hear more about too is how this whole idea of cheating on your husband with your husband.
I like that one.
It's so interesting to me. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when I got married, my frustration at this point, I had been working on dating books and in the field interviewing people, and it felt like everything in the bookstore was relationship rescue. And I thought, I don't need rescue. I just want renewal, because after a few years, brain changes, right?
That's what we fear as single people.
Yeah. I mean, so I just cheat on your husband with your husband is light self-help. It's not heavy. I need to rescue you. It's exercises and just a way to be more present in your vacation self.
Do you cheat on your husband with your husband?
I try. I don't always. Sometimes sometimes my husband's like page 90s. You're not really doing that. Exactly.
The other a viral video that she worked on. Hello. So there's this video, and it's, okay. So it was called. Help me out. Some meditation.
I can tell you, orgasmic meditation.
Orgasmic meditation. Okay, so it's a video on kind of I don't know if it's a movement.
You know, I do not practice it, to be honest, but I'm a journalist and I cover the world of relationships, and this is one thing that in New York that's very popular.
In the video and the practices, and I'm thinking I want to forward this to every man that I know in the world that basically, this is kind of explicit, so if you have children, you might want to put them in the other room for a minute, but basically, the man touches the woman's clitoris for 15 minutes without the goal of an orgasm per se, but literally just having that experience. And I'm thinking, if every man knew this, they would solve all sexual issues around the globe, okay? So tell me about how you got involved with that video.
Well, from minute one of my career, I like to explore. I always say I challenge conventional wisdom.
She wasn't in the video, but
okay. I got like, no, you know what's funny, Erin? I was originally in the video and I looked like a pervert.
I saw Jocelyn's face and she was like,
Originally, I was in the video watching the orgasmic meditation. I looked really, like, it looked bizarre.
No.
So we cut me out. But I was there for it. No, but from minute one of my career, I've always, and I've said about my brand, I challenge conventional wisdom with common sense. So I explore things that are happening all around us, but sometimes, you know, issues people that seem a little taboo. It's okay to sleep with them on the first date and every other rule of dating debunked. Listen, every TV show I've been on, a producer at some point has said, I did that with my husband. And there are all these rules in life and love that actually in real time with real people I've spoken to do not apply. So that's what I'm trying to always
It's
fight
so
against.
interesting though, because there are so many expectations and standards we try and compare our relationships to, and then naturally I always feel like I'm failing.
Well, that's the should. So I have a chapter in one of my books called Stop Shoulding All Over Yourself. And if you replace the word should with the word want, you're going to live and love more authentically. So what do you want? Do you want to be with this person, or do you think you should be? That's a powerful question.
It's such a powerful question. It sounds like so much of it is letting go of the expectations that other people have for you in your life, right? Yeah.
And that's hard.
What about the expectations for yourself though? I don't care about what you're thinking, I care about what
Well, okay, here's the litmus test. People will say, I don't want to compromise. I dedicated the book to women who should, and men for that matter, but women who should never settle when they settle down. So it's not about settling to change your list up a bit and focus on values. You're actually going deeper with what's important. And I think, you know, the quickest litmus test is, does this person, am I a good version of myself or not? I mean, it's as simple as that with the person I'm with. And so he or she could have every single quality you think you want, but if you can't check that box that I'm a good person, he's bringing out the best in me, it's not your match, period. With friends too, with anyone
right.
we're with.
I mean, we don't have too much more time, but I was actually just having a conversation with a girlfriend this morning, and she was talking about kind of an upset that her and her boyfriend got into. And I said, well, this is exactly why I don't necessarily believe in what we've been programmed around relationship, because I truly believe that he's never going to make you, he can never be the God that you want him to be, put it that way. And you can never be somebody that he's going to please. Like, we're women, you're breathing, something's going to bother us, right? And like, you know, so I truly believe that we need to almost like debunk the entire thing and get okay with being totally good with ourselves to even be able to have the potential of having a good relationship.
You're 100% right, because you know, it's always going to start with you. A fulfilling relationship, you need to feel connected to what fulfills you. I mean,
so it's
it
challenging as a dating relationship.
But I will say, my Aunt Dorothy, and rest in peace, she recently died, but she was so wise. And when I first met Michael, well, I met him as my friend, but when I was falling in love with him and it was freaking me out because he wasn't my type, I said to her, well, I don't think, like, there's so many imperfections, and she said, perfect is boring. And if you start from perfect, you have nowhere to go. Wow. And that was powerful.
That's the mantra. That's
it is.
The hashtag, the tweet of the day.
It's, are you a good version of yourself? You can grow together.
You start with perfect, there's nowhere to go from there.
And I imagine that's really fantastic advice, especially here in LA, where so many people are frustrated because they just say they can't find any available or interesting men or women out there in the world.
Yeah, well, here's the good news. I get emails every single day from amazing single people. There are more singles than ever before, so it's an exciting time to be single.
Exciting.
And now we get married because we want to, not because we need to.
Right.
And that's a major paradigm shift. A lot is happening in the world of love and relationships that is exciting. We have more opportunities to meet people, so it's good.
It's a great time.
We're in a good
so
time.
on that note, we kind of got to wrap up, but I just want to give a shout out to Emily Raper, because we met, and I'm so impressed with everything that you've been up to. Like, you've been all over the place. Good Morning America, you've been on OWN, you've been all over, and Emily, and it's how we met. Emily Raper's amazing. She did my reel for dating stuff also. Give her a huge shout out for her, amazing woman.
Love Emily.
Yay, we love Emily. And I want to know, where can everyone find you across
So they
social
can
media?
find me. I also have a site I just want to quickly shout out for those who are on the infertility journey and managing the relationships during that is also really tough. So that's pregnantish.com, and my personal site is andreasertash.com, and I'm sure up here you guys will post my name and
yes,
of course. I'm the only one in the world with my name. So
that's huge. I've got like 3,000 in my name. You have no idea. That's just in this state.
I love the word
pregnant-ish. A little bit pregnant.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm so excited to watch your journey, and I think it's an exciting time in the conversation of dating, relationships, and love, right?
Absolutely.
So, thanks you guys, and have a great day.